We have a question from Simon today. Thank you, Simon. Let's see what Simon says. How do you manage rest time when training for strength and hypertrophy? Okay, first thing, Simon, we're going to have to separate those two out. Strength is, adding load to the bar. Hypertrophy is building lean body mass. The toolkit for those two are the same tools, but the application in the gym is going to be slightly different. So let's make sure in my answer, I'm going to separate those two out. Should I use a clock, feel, or breathing as a measure? Okay, so let's just get to the basics first. For strength, you probably want more rest time. You want to be as fresh as you can be when you approach the bar in the next round. I've read, and I tried this in the early 90s, up to 5-minute rest periods when I was lifting heavy. But Simon, there's an issue with that. See, I was competing as a weightlifter. And even though it's great to have 5-minute rests in training, isn't that wonderful, 5 minutes? Well, in weightlifting meets, Dave Turner might say, Dan, you're up. And, the loaders are walking off the platform and he's tapping you on the shoulder and I'm being still. Okay. So even though you should probably have longer rest periods in strength training, if you compete, you've got to practice having real contracted strength periods, resting periods, I'm sorry. When I do easy strength, one of the reasons I like easy strength is that when you pop the bar up for a set of 5, you get up, you walk around literally for seconds, and you're like, I only have one more set. And you pop down, you do another set of 5. So the rest periods in easy strength can be very short because nothing ever feels that heavy. When you get to hypertrophy now, what you want to do in hypertrophy is something called density. There's basically 3 big tools in programming. First is volume, and volume is easy. If you take a 1-pound weight and you do it 1,000 times, your volume is 1,000 pounds. Well, I don't know if it has any value, but there you go. Or if you lift 1,000 pounds one time, your volume is 1,000 pounds. And that's pretty impressive. That's volume, okay? Intensity is the most difficult thing to explain, and I've written a lot about it because if someone's new to training, what's heavy for a new lifter isn't going to be heavy at all 3 years later. And some people define intensity as the set you miss on, but boy, I wouldn't want to train based on misses. So intensity is something, when I do workshops, I explain it for a while because it is a vague concept. When someone told me one time I should be able to do 90% of my best for 2, I remember thinking, my bests are on the platform at the Nationals. I can't just, wish to get 2 with that. So that's a tough one. But the third one is the easiest. It's density. Here's the amount of work. Here's the work. Here's the amount of time. And in density, you do one of 2 things. Same work, less time, or more work, same time. That's hypertrophy work. So your job in hypertrophy training is to figure out ways to get more work in the same amount of time. So many bodybuilders historically have found really condensing rest periods. The circuit training, also known as PHA from Bob Guida. The idea is that you would do 5 exercises back to back to back to back to back and just keep going. Our complexes at our gym, we pick 6 exercises and we do them one after another. Same amount of work, less time. So with hypertrophy work, you really want condensed rest periods. Now you come up with a few tools, but I'm going to give you one more. I'm a big fan of using the clock. It's kind of funny to think about the clocks I've had in my gym history. One thing I think you need on it is a sweeping second hand. And really, if I'm doing the Tabata squats, okay, I will start at when the second hand is on 12. I'll stop when it's on 4, rack it, pick it back up when it's on 6. So I'm using just the second hand to tell me when to go. If you're doing 1 minute on the minute, whatever time, if you decide to use when the second hand hits 12, you go again. So I think clocks have a value, especially when you're doing things, rest periods of less than 1 minute. Over 1 minute, I would use other tools because you're not going to follow the clock as well as you should. When you ask by feel or breathing, those are tougher because it's going to take some experience to understand what feel means. You can do something that's really hard that makes you really tired and maybe makes you vomit, but you might not have worked very hard. You know, there's exercises you can do, there's things you can do that can make you feel really lousy, but you might not be doing any work on strength or hypertrophy. So I think you have to be a little bit more advanced to use those two. Tim Anderson in the Ayurvedic tradition talks about breathing through the nose, and Tim's a real big advocate of once you're unable to breathe in through your nose, you have to start becoming a mouth breather. That's when you stop. I don't mind that, except of course I work with performance sometimes. And our job in performance or in the military is to go over what is comfortable. One other thing I'd like you to think about that you don't have is a heart rate monitor. And I have found that to be very helpful when it all works. Now, I'm not ripping on heart rate monitors, but they are technological, which means something is going to go wrong much sooner than later. The one problem I have with my heart rate monitor is that my phone will go off constantly, or someone will text me, or someone will call me, and it'll make the whole thing not work right anymore. Maybe I need to buy a single source. But I like Maffetone's numbers for training. 180 minus your age is where you want to go up to, and then you stop resting at 160 minus your age. So Simon, we're just guessing your 40 is 140, 160 minus 40 is 120. So your workout range would be 120 to 140. When it goes below this, you start again. When it goes above that, you stop. For me, that has been the best way to stay in a reasonable zone throughout the whole workout. Having said that, Simon, there are times that all these recovery rules need to be broken. Like I said, optimal recovery from strength is probably, maybe if you're huge and strong, could be up to 5 minutes. But in a contest, you might only have 2 minutes. So that changes things. I love the idea that you will spend the rest of your life doing workouts in this exact Maffetone range, except that just isn't the nature of what we do. Sometimes you're asked to do more. So just keep all that in mind. And I hope you are hearing that rest periods is a lot more nuanced and complicated than just me saying rest for 1 minute. Thank you so much.